All right, we are at the top of the hour. Welcome to Real Secrets of Money and happy Wealth Wednesday. My name is Lisa Lickert, and I will be your trainer for today. Andrea, if you have not clicked the record button, please do so now. All right, today is our budget workshop, and this is an interactive conversation. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure that you are able to answer questions. You are dropping them in the chat. Andrea is going to be checking that chat for us. And as questions come in, she will let me know. I do want to share just real quick the wrong slide deck. This is user error, completely on my fault. I was testing it out before you guys popped on, and we have the wrong deck in front of us. So let me go ahead and stop share real quick. And while I am playing around with the deck and getting the new one back up, why don't we drop in the chat if anyone has attended a budget workshop in the past? If you've attended a budget workshop in the past, let us know. Drop it in there. How long has it been? And what was your key learning from that workshop? If for some reason you have not attended a workshop, that's fine too. If this is your first one, please share with us one of the things that drew you to this session and why you're with us today. So why don't we have a chat going as I'm pulling up the Real Secrets of Money budget workshop presentation for you. Anybody in the chat, Andrea, or is it dead quiet?
We have dead quiet people here.
We have dead quiet. Well, that tends to happen too in these types of workshops for sure. So we don't want to put anybody on the spot. And I'm pretty sure I've got the right one this time. So hopefully you can see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, wonderful. So I'm going to start from the beginning. And we're going to get the party started. All right, today we're going to learn a couple of things. We are going to learn about your money personality and your money type. We're going to learn that because budgeting is not about managing expenses as much as it is about building wealth. So how do you do that exactly? Most people look at budgets by just looking at, here's my income, here's my expenses. I may not have anything left at the end of the month or at the end of the pay period. Today, we're going to talk a lot about how you set yourself up for success. A lot of people do budgets and you just can't be consistent. And so that is very normal. And so one of the things that we teach is knowing your money personality. And we do that across the financial services sector. It's not just about budgeting, but understanding your money personality really helps you set yourself up for success. We're going to talk about the steps of creating a budget, some budget methods for you to lean into. I'm going to challenge you at the end with a 30-day money move. Holidays are upon us and we're kicking off the new year right. And so we want to make sure we give you that challenge to set yourself up for success. And we always teach taking control. So first, let's talk a little bit about a budget. You know, how are you managing your money effectively? As we all know, money is such a stressful part of everybody's lives. It doesn't matter how much you make. It doesn't matter where you are in your financial journey. Money is a very stressful part of our lives. And being able to take control, that is creating that financial wellness for yourself. You want to make sure every dollar has a job in your world. And if you do, if you have that job for that dollar, then that's where that calm comes in and you're really able to manage all of that stress. So when you want to build a budget that is driving wealth, not necessarily just managing expenses, the one thing you need to know is what is your personality type? What is your money personality type? We all have them. We all have a history. We all have been raised a certain way in a certain community. We may or may not have been exposed to it in our family situations. We may or may not have been exposed to it in our education. And here we are today. So your money personality, there are different money personalities. And what I want to do is every single person that's on today, I do expect you to drop into the chat your money personality. So the saver, you feel secure when money is in the bank. You hate wasting and you love a good deal. I'm a thrifty person myself, so I do love a good deal. The spender, you find that joy. It's almost like therapy, treating yourself. And have you heard of shopping therapy? So that is the spender. The avoider, you just don't talk about money. You just avoid it altogether. One day, money will always come. We'll figure it out. And then the planner is the one that has to have that job for every single dollar. They need to have that structure. They really need to have that around them or they feel that stress. The giver, they're very generous. How many people in your life you go out to a movie and they're like, oh, I got this. And they're going to pay that movie ticket for you. And so maybe they put off their own needs and their financial goals for others. The risk taker, they do see money as an opportunity. It's a tool for opportunity. They make very big moves that might be in expenses and spending, but it can certainly mean investing as well. And the security seeker, that is a person that needs that stability, that is a little bit worried about where the next dollar is coming. They will lean into more safety than maybe investments in growth. You have the status seeker. This is where people believe their money is a status symbol. They have name brand purses. The car that they drive is going to be a luxury vehicle or a brand new vehicle. The home that they're in, they always have to supersize. And so other people's view of them and their money, they're very, very interested in that status seeking. The dreamer, big ideas, huge audacious goals for their money. And then the student, always learning, wanting to learn more, wanting to do more. The compartmentalizer there is that organizer, that person that really just has that separate purpose for their money. They could be budgeting for bills. Again, what many of us do, we budget for our expenses versus, budgeting for savings and growth. And the resenter, they just hate the whole entire thing. Maybe they had a horrible situation happen in their life up to this point, and money has not been a positive force in their life. So who's been in the chat, and what do we have here in the chat? I've got a second screen to my right, so excuse me as I'm looking over to my right. So we've got a person saying this is their first budget workshop. Thank you. I didn't catch that when we first started and I was changing our slides. We also have a giver. We do have a giver here with us, and we have a saver. Oh, I thought it was a saver, but I'm a spender. Okay, and maybe a resenter. I love that you're really kind of coming in tune with maybe the journey that you've had with money. Really think through, as we're talking today, where you feel today, because it is onward, right, with money. Whatever happened in the past, we certainly need to kind of pay homage to the history and where we've come from. But right now, today, we're drawing a line in the sand and we're marching forward. So think through kind of what you feel like today and which personality best represents you. Later on in this workshop, we'll talk a little bit about the budget methodology that aligns with it. And so you want to make sure you kind of, again, draw that line in the sand. All right, we've got a risk taker. And let's see. Okay, good stuff. Thank you for sharing in the chat what your money personality is. All right, 6 steps. These are not earth-shattering. There's no smoking gun. It's just a structure to help you walk away from today and take action, especially during this time of the year when we are overspending, probably spending what we don't have or probably using credit. Maybe we've abandoned some of our financial goals. Maybe we've sacrificed some things that we typically would make sure that we took care of on other times of the year for this time of the year. So it is really good to get that mindset straight, know your money personality, and go through the steps to succeed. And the first step will always be knowing your why and setting your goals. Why are you putting a budget in place today? What does that really mean? What are you trying to accomplish? If you're just putting a budget in place because you have to, everybody needs a budget, right? You're always told maybe check that box, or maybe in school, or maybe you heard it from a friend group or something that you should be managing through a budget. You absolutely should. But why are you doing it? What is driving you at this point in time? Get rid of those negatives and focus on those positives. Again, that go forward mentality. And we are always going to recommend doing SMART goals. So when you are setting your goals for your budget and your money, You want to make sure you're very specific. You want to make sure that goal is measurable. Don't put a goal in, just do better. Have more money in my account at the end of the pay period. Be very specific. Make sure it's achievable. You know, if your income is one thing and your goals are up here, you really need to align some things and kind of baby step in. So make sure it's achievable. Make sure it's relevant to your long-term goals. When you're talking short-term, you really want to make sure there's some relevancy to those long-term goals. And like I said, make sure it is time-bound as well. That's smart. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So it is so easy to, again, draw that line in the sand and then think about where you want to be in 10 years. It is so easy to do that because we're putting things down on paper or maybe our app and our phone. And we know we want to march towards that goal. And it's important to do that, but start small. When you take big chunks, it is very difficult to be consistent. But when you take small steps, it's much easier to be consistent, right? I mean, we've all felt that in our lives. For example, if you've never contributed to your 401k plan and there's a company match that matches up to 4%, and you've never contributed, don't do 4% a pay period because you're going to feel that a lot differently than if you started off at, let's say, 1% or 2%, or maybe a flat dollar amount. And then you worked up to maximizing that company contribution of that 4%. That's an example. And then make sure you have some accountability partners. It could be your family. It could be your friend group. Don't just let it be you. Once you've identified that goal and you've made it a SMART goal, then you want to make sure you're communicating it to people that are important to you in your life. Because when you have weaknesses or days, there's good days and bad days, you want to make sure that you have people around you that do a couple things. One, add pressure. Right? That accountability, you're going to add pressure, but care about you and want to see you succeed. And so when you have weak moments or hard days or hard pay periods or months, you want to make sure you've got the right people around you that's going to encourage you to be consistent. So examples of those short goals that I was mentioning, emergency savings is one of those. Maybe some home repairs if you have a home. You know, some midterm are always going to be things like vacations and holidays. Maybe you have an annual expense that you pay every year. Maybe you pay something on like your car insurance. Instead of paying it monthly or quarterly, you pay it annually, something like that. And then your long-term savings is going to be something that's going to fall more in the line of college savings, your retirement planning. If you maybe want to purchase a home, those types of things, that's going to be your long-term. So just make sure you've got those categories very solid, or you can do that Tarzan leap over to long-term, really lose sight of those short terms, and you get discouraged in your budget process. So identifying income expenses, a lot of times people are confused. Am I going to be tracking my gross? Am I tracking my net income? What am I tracking? What does that all mean? What types of expenses are out there? And so this is meant to kind of do a little bit of a sanity check, maybe a reminder, but also try to simplify things. You can complicate a budget very easily. So to simplify things, your gross income is going to be what you earn. There's going to be your salary and your wages. If you have other investments, it could be your gains in those investments. Let's say you get a bonus with your employer, and then you have some interest. You have interest on things that you might have in a high yield savings account or a regular savings account or a CD or something along those lines. So your net income, though, is what I say is it hits the bank account. So if you have a direct deposit on your check, it's what hits your bank account. So this is after taxes. This is after if you have employee benefits like medical, dental, vision, things like that. This is your pay that hits your bank account after all of that is satisfied. And so when you're budgeting, you really want to use that net number because that is a more realistic number, more tangible number for you because you physically see it hit your bank account. So if you have a regular income, let's say you are a 1099 contractor or you work a full-time and then a part-time job, or let's say you're in retail or you're in service and your hours go up and down, you really want to make sure that you are opening a couple of accounts. If you're a contractor and you don't have taxes from your checks that you receive, you want to open an account and you want to what's called accrue for taxes. So every single time you get paid, you want a small portion of that based on your tax table going into the separate account. You don't see it, it's there. And why is it important to be there? Because you have to pay your taxes. And so if you set that aside and you're only focusing in on the check you received as a contractor minus those taxes, you're budgeting on those dollars. Now, if you have irregular income, it is very important not to take that check minus those taxes and put it into a main account. You probably need to put it into another account. So you could potentially have 3 different accounts for sure, but it's the smart way of managing your money. If you have a regular income, you have a tax account, an account that you put money in to pay your taxes. You have a main account that you put money in because of your expenses. And then you could probably have that secondary account then for your spending. We'll go through wants and needs here in a little bit. So fixed, variable, and periodic expenses, something to make sure you're keeping track of, are things that are pretty fixed, right? So if you've got a car loan, that's fixed. If you have rent or mortgage, that's fixed. Your insurance premiums, and let's say membership. So if you have a membership to a gym, those types of things. Now, variable is going to change from month to month, maybe even week to week, and that's your dining out and your groceries. It could be your entertainment, those types of things, personal care, how often do you get a haircut, those types of things. Periodic expenses, we hate these because they sneak up on us, and many times if we don't have the right budget in place. And this is things like maybe an annual car registration. If you own a home and you're in an HOA, that payment does hit pretty hard on an annual basis. If you do, like I mentioned, paying your car insurance maybe on a quarterly or annual basis, that kind of hits hard too. So you need to know your periodic expenses when you are setting up your budget. Wants versus needs. How honest are we with ourselves when it comes to wants versus needs? I know I'm not honest. And I need my accountability partners, even though I'm in the business of making money for myself and others. It's a challenge, and it's just us as humans and human nature. So something you need is something that is essential to your survival. Something you want is a good to have, but not necessary. Very basic stuff for sure, but we all have issues managing our wants and our needs, and that's where budgets fail as well. So you're always paying your needs first, then you're paying yourself. When you are budgeting for wealth, you're always paying yourself in the form of savings. It could be investments, it could be a high yield savings account, it could be a number of financial vehicles, but you're paying for your needs, your mortgage, your rent, you're paying for your food, you're paying for everything you have to survive. Then you're paying for yourself, which is under that savings bucket. And then you go into your wants. And your wants can be things like your entertainment and going out and some of that other additional spending. Now, a lot of people get confused about what a need could potentially be. Well, I don't really need a gym membership. Do you? Do you have a high stress environment and then working out helps you manage the stress? Do you have some health concerns where you need to make sure you are staying active and you don't have places within your home where you live where you can have a workout space? So you really have to think about it. And 2, if you are challenged with mental health, if you're going through a season in your life right now, and therapy is extremely important, that is essential. That is going to be under need. So while I say you have to be tough on yourself and it's what you need for survival, you absolutely do still need to give yourself grace and identify what's truly a need in your life. All right, so from plan to action is step 4. So you've set your goals, you've identified what income and expenses look like in your world, you know exactly what your needs and your wants are, and now you're ready for a budget. So here's the thing, Andrea, why don't you drop the handout in the chat? Everybody that's on with us, you will have access to this handout in the chat, and those that are watching us on YouTube at a later date will make sure that it's in the description how you can get your hands on it. So your money personality, just a little bit ago, we said, okay, what is your money personality? And some of those bold attendees dropped it in the chat and told us exactly what their money personality is. You remember what you selected? Well, now we're here and we're saying, okay, now based on your money personality, these are the types of budget methods that fit you. And so just to give you a couple of examples, I'm going to hover on here, but I want to make sure you know you see the handout. Give me a thumbs up on the attachment in the chat if you have the handout. So we want to see a thumbs up in the chat. Okay, we get a couple going on there for sure. When you open that, you're going to see the money personality slide that we looked at earlier on in today's session. You're going to see that breakdown at the very top. And as you go to the second and third page, you're going to start to see the budget method. And so what's really cool about that handout, it's going to describe that money personality once again for you. So if you're on the fence and you really need to sit with it and do some deep thinking or critical thinking around that, you absolutely can. But the second page and the third page then match your money personality with that description to a budget method and what that budget method's description is. So we're going to go through a few, but we don't have time today to go through all of them. That handout is meant to be a resource for you, so you can reference that after today. Okay, checking the chat real quick. We're doing good on questions. Let's go back here. All right, one of the methods we are going to talk about, and this was big on YouTube for quite some time, is the envelope. So if you said you're a security seeker, or if you said you're a compartmentalizer, so security seeker is one that prioritizes stability and safety over big returns. And then the compartmentalizer likes to really keep that money organized. They want to know what, again, every dollar has its job. They want to keep it separate by purpose, and they want that organization. So the envelope method is going to be a good method you'll see on your handout that will align with those types of money personalities. And so this is a cash-based system. So this is a little bit wonky in our world where we have debit cards and credit cards and, wallets on our phones and things like that, where we constantly are using, not using cash. But what this will do is this will give you discipline. So it's a cash-based system. You're creating and you're filling envelopes, and you're only spending what's on that envelope. You're not borrowing from the other envelopes. You're not looking at the other envelopes, depending on what that expense is. And if you have high debt, specifically credit card debt, where you have carrying a balance month over month, this is such a good method for you as well. Any questions on that? Right. Pay yourself first. This is also known as the reverse budget, or the anti-budget. And so what this is, you don't see it. You're paying yourself first. Remember, we were like needs, and we had savings, and then we had wants. This goes right into your savings and then your needs. Now you have to establish what that looks like, but it's out of sight, out of mind. So if you are an avoider, this is an incredible method for you. If you're a status seeker, this is a pretty good one for you too, because you're not going to buy that name brand purse, or you're not going to buy that big expense that's going to show your wealth, because you won't have it in your account. You're going to have it in an investment account, something like a high yield savings account. You're going to have it directly deposited from your employer. It works just like a savings account. It can grow depending on the one that you select. It can grow 4 to 4.8%. You're not going to get that in the bank. And it's going to be accessible just like a regular bank account, but you're not going to see it. So it's going to grow so much faster, right? So you're going to pay yourself. And then once you pay yourself, what is left in your account is what you're budgeting from. Does that make sense? All right. So we shared a couple of budget types, certainly not all of them with you. When you look at the handout, look at how many are on that handout, right? But we only have time today to go through a couple of them. So really what you want to do is you want to take a look at that money personality. You want to take a look at your matching budget methodology, and you want to make those decisions on how to get started. Again, goals, and get your information organized. You want to make sure you're prioritizing yourself first and not your spending. So whether it is a budget methodology that is specifically doing that pay it first we just talked about, you really want to prioritize yourself first. What does that mean? Well, as you're doing some activities, we're going to get into some activities here, stop and do a sanity check, have that accountability partner. You want to make sure that you have a balance, and you want to make sure this brings you joy. And what is going to bring you joy? Budgeting for wealth, not budgeting for spending. All right. How do you avoid unplanned spending? Get off social media at night. Do not sit at night in your bed or in your favorite spot or with your friends and jump on social media and get pulled in to all of that advertising and all of that quick spend. Click a link. Your credit card is already attached to your phone. You've just bought something. And so about half of the people in this world do exactly that. And so that unplanned spending is what's getting you, that's what's really doing it. We have in our world of financial coaching, we talk to people every day, all day long. And the one thing that we hear most on is that they are living paycheck to paycheck. And so we have a couple of solutions for that, for sure. But the one solution that we find out is that they are simply spending what they have. And so this unplanned spending is a big, big deal. You don't think you're doing it because you're going with your emotion. You're not going with a budget. You're not managing your wealth. You're saying, oh, well, I only spent $5 here, or I already spent $2 here, but it adds up. And at the end of the pay period or at the end of the month, that's where you get yourself in trouble. And then you're going to, the step 6 is adjust. Always have a meeting with yourself. I have a financial meeting with my husband. I'm the money manager in our family. And so we have once a month we get together and we really kind of go through and talk about things. We do it on a monthly basis just because life happens, and we have a lot of unexpected things in our world, don't we? Life moves fast, things like that. And so we want to make sure we're doing a sanity check, I should say, or a sync up every single month. So you want to review your goals if it's on a monthly basis, if it's on a quarterly basis, maybe it's twice a year for you because you're not a money person. And the thought of having to sit down and adjust your plan, you'd rather poke your eyes out, right? So, but you want to set that up, put it on your calendar, book it now. When you set your budget, put it on your calendar and give yourself a reminder to do it. You deserve that time. As your income increases, you're going to want to make sure that you are revisiting your budget. Have you guys heard of the more you make, the more you spend? I think we all know what that means. The more you make, the more you spend. And so if you have an increase in your income, that's an increase in your wealth build opportunities. So you never want to not revisit your budget and make an adjustment relative to your increase. And then reducing expenses. There's times where you're going to pay off a credit card. There's times where you're going to pay off a loan, maybe your car loan. There's times where you're going to have the opportunity to decrease your expenses, and you want to adjust your budget when that happens, because your offset is then investment in growing your money. See how that is? If you're adjusting every time you have a difference in expense or income, you're always going to be focused on building wealth versus managing just your expenses. And then keeping track and staying accountable. If you know you're a visual person and you need to have something right there in your face all the time, make it happen. Figure it out. Is that something you put on the refrigerator? Is that something you put on a desk that you have in your house that you sit at on a daily basis or a frequent basis? You have to decide. And then, like I said, staying accountable, that's to you. Who are you telling in your family? Who are you telling in your friend group? And when you stay accountable, what does that mean? Does that mean you just say, oh, I'm doing fine? Or does that mean you invite them over for coffee and you sit down and you really tell them how you're doing so you can have that pressure, have that support, and make things happen? All right. You must see the numbers, like I said, and some ways to do that. We've got some resources for you. So take a picture of the screen. We're also going to blog about this. So you'll be able to see the blog on Shirley Lewin Associates LinkedIn page. You'll also see this blog on uniquegrowth.org. The blog typically comes out within the next week. Because of the holidays, we'll definitely get that out there for you before the Christmas holiday. So here's some budgeting apps, and the budget on these budgeting apps, which I think is funny, is free. So they're right in your budget, right? They're free apps. Now, can you buy up on all these apps? Absolutely. Are you going to? Absolutely not. Because if you choose to buy up on an app, get out a piece of paper and make that happen on a piece of paper. You do not need to spend money to make money. Budget strategies. So here's some helpful resources for you to tap into so you can learn a little bit more about the different budget strategies. Your handout is definitely a nice resource, but if you want to do deep dives, here are some links that you can check out on your own to learn a little bit more. Okay, so remind yourself, you deserve to build wealth from your budget. You deserve to take the steps and you deserve to stay consistent. It's all up to you and you have complete control. So do not quit. Once you know your money personality and you've tied it to the right budget method, you will be successful with the right accountability partners. So what is the secret about the budget? There's no secret because there's no one size that fits all. Like I just said, the secret is matching your personality to your budget. That's your budget methodology. That's the only reason people are failing, is because somebody told them to do a envelope method when they are a pay it first or reverse budget person, because of how they think about money, how they relate to money, how they manage their money currently. So the secret is that there's really no secret other than matching yourself to the right budget fit. Hopefully that handout and some of the conversation we're having today does help you do just that. So what's next? We call this a workshop, and we did that because there's some critical thinking around your money personality and then tying it to the right budget methodology. But then what comes next? So we help people in multiple ways. We help people by meeting with them to understand their money personality and map them into wealth building strategies. We use exactly what they currently have and we get them where they want to go. So a lot of people say, oh, I don't have anything. I'm living paycheck to paycheck. And our jobs are really to help you understand and maximize your money. So please do not set yourself up for failure. Set yourself up for success. Schedule a time for us to talk. You can drop in the chat and we can contact you using the registration information. Another way that we help people is as you're sitting down with your budget, and let's say you are identifying your income and you're identifying your expenses, right? And you see that your income is lagging or you have peaks and valleys in your income. If you want to learn what we do and how we do it, we can help you with some part-time income in this industry, or even a career shift in this industry. So don't close the door to those opportunities. And so those are some ways that we can help you. And as we close today, I want to make sure you understand our citations of where we brought up this information. And we wouldn't be in financial services if we didn't have a disclosure, now would we? This is all for training purposes. This is not meant to be any guarantees. Our broker is First Financial Security, and they help us create the Real Secrets of Money platform so we can serve, educate, and empower our clients.